Hello, my name is Ana Valenzuela, and I decided to create a lesson on slope and Y-intercept for a middle school classroom consisting of mixed levels of knowledge. I decided to create my own lesson, but I got inspiration from Danny Whitaker's activity called Hit the Runway. The goal of my lesson is to further enhance the students' understanding about the effect that different Y-intercepts and slopes have on a graph linear equation. This will be done by exploring different scenarios throughout the slides where the slope or Y-intercepts must be changed in order to execute the activities properly. In this case, we're assuming that students already had a prior lesson on linear equations, slope, and Y-intercepts. We also assume that students have a basic understanding of these concepts and that they also know that both Y-intercepts and slopes can have positive and negative values. So as soon as students enter this lesson, the first slide they see provides them with the objective of the lesson. This prepares them for the information that will be presented in the following slides. Then slides 2, 3, and 4 serve as a quick review about slope, y-intercepts, and the linear equation. For slope, we're just reminded about the informal way we refer to it, whether it be rise over run or run over rise, so they get to choose. And it's not a very critical thinking question because, like I said, it's just a quick review. And then for y-intercept, we're just giving a definition and a visual so that we actually know what we're referring to when we're talking about the y-intercept. And for the linear equation, I decided to include the form, instead of y equals mx plus b, the one that has the f of x equals mx plus b, because this is the one actually used throughout the slides. So then in the fifth slide, this is the first one that actually has an interactive activity. And in this case, they must create a linear equation that would make the car found at the origin to pass through the middle of the road. So the students are given instructions on what to do in order to make the activity clear. This specific slide, the center of the road is given to make it easier for them to figure out the linear equation that best fits the scenario. Then once they complete this and actually find the correct equation, they can press on this and they will see that, yeah, when they get the right answer, their car will pass through the middle of the road. That slide, you are already given an equation that you must modify in order to make the car pass through the middle of the road. This helps them visually understand the effect that changing the y-intercept or the slope has on the given graph line. For both the fifth and the sixth slides, students have the chance to modify or rewrite the equation as many times as they need until they get the correct equation. For example, I can say negative x plus 10, and we see that it still doesn't cross the middle of the road. And then I can maybe say, you know what, it might be 15, and then I see that the line goes through it, so I play this and make sure that my car indeed goes through the middle of the road. So that is what they have to do for this activity. Then for the seventh slide, they're giving a graph with a scenario on it, and they must tell which of the two students has the correct linear equation. This slide tests their knowledge because they must realize the change that having a positive versus a negative slope has on their graph line. And once they choose their answer, they must explain their thinking. So with this component of explaining their thinking, it assures me that all students know what they are doing instead of having them just guess. Then moving on to the eighth slide. This slide they are asked to sketch where they think the car will be on the y-intercept in order for it to pass through the middle of the road. This helps them think critically and become more engaged in the scenario. And then so they can either choose, for example, let's say they choose 35. They see that nope, it's not going to pass through the middle, so then they can do another one at 30 and see that indeed it will pass through the middle of the road. And then just to verify their answer, they can move on to slide number 9, where there's an actual representation of where the car must be in the y-intercept for it to cross to the middle of the road. This next slide is the most interactive slide out of all. In this one, students can create their own linear equation and scenario and see if they can get the car to pass through the middle of the road. In order to remove technical difficulties and all of that, I provided instructions on how to move the images around to their desired position. With this slide, I hope students get motivated to experiment with y-intercepts and slopes without actually complaining about doing the mathematics. This would have a more fun approach to looking at y-intercepts, slopes, and linear equations. Once again, clear instructions so that they can execute the activity properly. And then the final slide just provides a conclusion about what the students should have learned throughout this interactive slash reinforcement lesson. I really tried to make it short yet precise so that I'm guaranteed that all my students will go through all the slides. And due to the mixed levels of knowledge, I try to use a variety of activities that overall taught the same objective yet in different ways so that majority of the class benefited from this lesson. And I mostly focus on the delay feedback and variety of verbs and nouns to make sure that my students were learning something and not just guessing. Thank you for joining my lesson, and I hope you enjoyed it.